Now that we have some firm numbers, we can go ahead and put a bow on the 2023 box office. And guess what, guys? It's not good. Wow, big shock on that one. I think we already knew, but it's just nice to get final confirmation on that. 2023 U.S. box office crosses $9 billion, led by Universal. Yes, Universal had its hands in Oppenheimer and the Super Mario Brothers movie. Not too sure about the Taylor Swift movie, but we know who has his hands on Taylor Swift. Wonka tops the New Year's weekend with $30 million in the Monday update. Yes, the Monday being the first of the year where, yes, projections will be just about good enough for them to just finally go arrivederci to the year that was. Yes, Virginia, there was a Santa Claus, and he's delivering the motion picture industry a $9 billion plus at the domestic box office, a feat that many thought was unimaginable with lack of mega tentpole over the holidays, coupled with a Q4 impact by the double strikes. Was it? Yeah, I guess. Like a couple of films ended up getting maneuvered around, but where that's ultimately going to get felt is in 2024, but more on that very shortly. The numbers were compiled from ComScore data and deadline calculations. ComScore called 2023 at $9.03 billion yesterday. It was a diversified crop of family and adult films over the weekend that got us there, including Warner's trifecta of Wonker, which led to the 4-day New Year's box office with $30 million, which is wild. Okay, The Color Purple, which fell off tremendously, right? Oh, it had the second biggest opening on Christmas Day, like literally ever. And then after that, holy shit, that box office went pear-shaped. That's funny, all that talk about the musical getting revived is just, it's taking a back seat. Oh, but this is The Color Purple, not the Rosa Parks story. As well as adult movies like, yes, A Boy in the Boat. I have no idea what that is. Even young adult romantic comedy, Anyone But You. But the important one that I want to focus on here very, very quickly, which leads into the title of this video, Disney's A Final Embarrassment of 2023, has been achieved because guess what, guys? Guess what? Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom coming in second place thanks to the holidays is going to end up, and as it sits right now, guess what? It's made $50 million more than the Marvels. Hilarious for all of those people. Aquaman's actually tracking lower behind the Marvels. Oh really? Oh really? Because look at the box office numbers that we have right here. Okay, it failed in comparison to the widest release that the Marvels had. Remember, the Marvels, it didn't have a big holiday weekend or anything to bolster it, okay? It could have just rode the wave of Thanksgiving, but it decided to, subsequently fall underneath the wake and drown itself. You can't let women drive anything. But outside of that, had very little in the way of competition. Ended up losing out to, just about anything that they could put on a reel because nobody wanted to see that disaster. But in contrast, though, Aquaman 2, for as large of a hurdle as it had to overcome with Amber Heard being right there, general apathetic word of mouth, I think, ended up really doing well for it because there were things that people were praising about it. The character of Orm, Patrick Wilson. Yeah, people seem to, it's like, that's the best character. If you're just going to go ahead and put both of those movies side by side, far and away the best character that's right there. His story is actually reasonably compelling. You just have to put everything else over the top of that and wade through that nonsense if you want to go get a mediocre character study. Black Manta as a villain, not all that bad in the grand scheme of things. And that right there ended up leading to a pretty decent hold and pretty decent return over holiday season, meaning that at $82 million, probably the ticket stubs end up getting firmly counted out, and then definitely by the end of the week for sure, like 100%. $82 million, as opposed to the Marvels, which is, dead on arrival. It's not going to hit $85 million because, okay, now we got the projections. It's in like 6 theaters, okay, making $9,000 a day between Christmas and New Year's. That's atrocious. That's really terrible. And then the international numbers, man, already Aquaman 2 has beat the brakes off of its international return. It's more than likely, definitely by the weekend, because I don't know what the competition is supposed to be, okay, for the upcoming weekend. There's that, I think that's the swim night, date night, swim, whatever. Maybe that'll bite into it, but that's kind of a horror film. There's a possibility, a real outside possibility, given the fact that it's only been in the theaters for a couple of weeks. This thing could hit $100 million domestic. It's still not going to break even, because remember, this was like a $300 million movie, so it needs to make about 2 times more what it's already made right here, but it's already laughed the Marvels out of the park, which, oof. Yo, I was trepidatious for a very long time in thinking that that Aquaman 2 had an opportunity to beat the Marvels, but I thought just a general dislike and whatever goodwill that the Marvel Cinematic Universe still had would be enough to go ahead and carry the day and make it so that the Marvels wasn't the biggest disaster in superhero movies in 2023, but guess what? We here, brah, and that is 1000% the case. The Flash made more money than the Marvels. Similar budget. Aquaman 2, still making more money than the Marvels ever made. That was the biggest disaster in 2023. But here's the thing. We don't know what's going to be the biggest disaster in 2024. And that's the question. That's definitely the question that we have right here. Domestic box office expected to drop by $1 billion in 2024. Mostly because, well, there's your heavy hitters. That's right there. Joker 2, that one's going to be interesting. I don't know what the production budget is. Haven't heard any firm numbers on that one, but it's also a play off of a film that made over $1 billion. Absolutely wild scenario. On a $50 million budget. Now, Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix are going to be, returning to their roles as director and then, of course, as Arthur Fleck. But throwing on Lady Gaga and making it a musical, oof, that's definitely rolling the dice, okay? For as much as I detest the music of Lady Gaga, she's a pretty decent actress, from what I see and from what I hear. Premise is certainly interesting. It's going to have a lot of goodwill, because for being a superhero film in 2024, it's not really, because the first one, even though it was using, superhero characters, it was never really perceived as being one. So it's not going to carry that stench. And because it's going to be considered an Elseworld in the DC Pantheon, kind of like the same way they're going to be running simultaneously 2 separate Batman. You're going to have a Robert Pattinson's and whatever James Gunn does with the mainline DCU stuff. So this is going to be the same thing with Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. So if this thing continues to make money, well, they're really going to have to reconcile what they're going to be doing with that moving forward. But that's one thing that that Warner's going to be doing. And then, of course, you see Dune 2. You got Timothée Chalamet's Paul Atreides. That one a lot of people are looking forward to, but that's not coming out until March. And then who the hell even knows what Beetlejuice 2 is going to do? I don't even think, other than the fact that it's kind of more synonymous with its meme value and its cultural relevance. I've never actually seen Beetlejuice. I've probably seen the cartoon. Definitely seen the cartoon more than anything to do with Michael Keaton's original portrayal back in the, late 80s? Yeah, never seen it. Never seen it at all. And then Deadpool 3, probably earmarked as being the best performing film of the year. And it's also doing some interesting things and what Kevin Feige's trying to latch onto. It's going to be a subject that we're going to be coming back to several times throughout the year, because I'm simultaneously fascinated by how it's going to perform and what Disney Marvel is going to learn from it. But let's take a look at the preemptive damage report for the box office this year. There will be blood at the box office in 2024. No, for some reason that is one of the non-announced sequels, okay? For all of the stupid decisions that Hollywood's making, I'm still upset. I'm viscerally upset about Gladiator 2, but I'm surprised they're not going to be doing what, There Will Be Blood 2? Come on, I want to have an entire film about that singular bowling pin. If you've seen the film, that makes sense. And not the type that comes with 2 studio tentpoles going at each other. Nah, as Barbenheimer showed this past year. And that's actually great for business. Yeah, but that's such a one-off event. They were perfect complementary movies. You're very rarely, if ever, going to see that ever again. We're talking the red ink kind, okay? And it will be felt on both sides, studios and cinemas, with the latter sector experiencing a potential collapse come spring among mid-sized circuits due to erratic pipeline of product. Yes, exactly, because your entire industry just decided to take an 8-month swath off, with your writers off to begin with, and then with your actors strike that ended up getting being drug out for a nominal return. The union was offered a greater payout from the likes of George Clooney and his types wanting to get back to work. But no, they really wanted to stick it to the studios. But in actuality, house always wins. That's what you get when you have this stupid nanny as your chief negotiator. Well, this year counted 124 wide theatrical releases, opening in 1,000+ theaters. The dual WGA SAG-AFTRA strikes forced a bulk of the tentpole delays that are leaving 2024 with only 107 wide titles. Yo, that doesn't seem like a lot. 17 additional flicks, but just think about the ones that ended up getting pushed off. There were a couple of Marvel films. Okay, Captain America, Black Falcon, man. Unfortunately, Snow White, but we can see if Rachel Zegler's going to go ahead and keep up that fresh coat of paint and try to be a more personable individual. But she's going to get testy at some point in time, I'm sure. As for the rest of this, craters abound on the release schedule with 6 weekends currently sans wide entries. January 26th, but January in general, there's going to be a lot of holdovers from the holidays. So if Wonka has legs, it's definitely got the open runway space. And Aquaman 2, come on, don't make me laugh. It's going to make some money, but like everybody's basically going to have their fill. March 15th, May 31st, October 11th, December 6th, and December 27th. Yeah, that one doesn't really surprise me because Christmas next year is going to fall on a Wednesday. So studios doing their Christmas affair, they're going to be getting a very extended weekend there. And it's not like there were any brand new releases that came out this year. So that one's, totally fine. And then December 6th, that should be the afterglow of Thanksgiving. So that one totally makes sense. But missing out on a May 31st one, that one's going to be the big problem, man. That's the one that definitely sticks out like a stiff prick in a whorehouse. The domestic box office this year, after being 21% over 2022, with a nearly $9 billion, is expected to shed at least $1 billion in 2024 to $8 billion, down 11%. Yeah, I want to keep that in mind. $8 billion, so we can go ahead and refresh our memories this time next year going, wow, we're certainly optimistic about this $8 billion because we went over, what was that, yesterday? Yeah, either yesterday or the day before, the 2024 big tentpole release schedule, and holy shit, it is a veritable who's that at the theaters. Y'all excited for Madam Web? I know I am, mostly to just cover how big of a disaster it is on opening weekend, but there's not a lot to get excited about. Outside of morbid curiosity, there's some films that are on that schedule where it's like, what are you thinking? What are you doing? Gladiator 2? Seriously, Gladiator, I'm not going to let that go because what's wrong with Ridley Scott? Somebody just needs to, send Grandpa to the home. After exhibition, and the major studios were wounded during the coup. Oh my God, to cinema closures in March 2020 to March 2021, and features stuck in post-production during the fall of 2022. This year saw a return to some normalcy due to the conveyor belt of tentpole releases every weekend starting back in mid-February, with Disney, Marvel Studios, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Quantumania with a $106 million opening, and then falling off the proverbial cliff with a 65% drop off. And oh wait, it only got worse from there. And through post-Labor Day with new lines, The Nun 2. That's, I guess, technically speaking, if it got more than 1,000 cinemas, or sorry, 1,000 screens, that is a wide release. But The Nun 2, The Nun 2, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Like, we know how they ended up performing, but still, you're going to put those on equal footing? Whatever. The supply of wide releases was so great in 2023 that there was only one weekend without them. Okay, this upcoming New Year's weekend. Interesting. Very interesting. An indication of the New Year's success at the box office is always determined by the spillover of the previous year's pinnacle Christmas releases. Yeah, in recent years, 2021, Spooderman's No Way Home delivering $232 million at the 2022 domestic box office, and Avatar, yes, The Way of Water, last year fueling the $283 million. There's no FOMO movie of the marquee this holiday season. Yeah, a lot of people just going, you want to go to the theater? I don't know, what's out there? You like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? I'd like to see Oprah getting abused by Danny Glover back in the the color purple way back in the day. Well, there's a new one that's out there, the color purpler. Unless you're a wrestling fan, like an old school wrestling fan, there's no impulse to drive anybody to the theaters, and well, feeling the pinch this time around. Wonka, yes, $8.9 million, second lowest gross for a #1 movie on Boxing Day in the millennium, or 2020's Wonder Woman 1984. What a lovely disaster that was, $5.8 million, when the majority of the nation's cinemas were shuttered due to the coup. And yes, it also had the day and date release of being on HBO Max. So yeah, now we should be nervous about the first half of 2024. Oh, it's going to be beautiful. I'm looking forward to it. No way that the labor stoppage, as prolonged, as chaotic as it wasn't going to have consequences, the suit explains. Fire comes through and burns a forest and a town, and the fire is over, and the consequences of the fire aren't over. There's mudslides, and then there's damaged infrastructure. So, they're just thinking this is going to be scorched earth. It's going to be tough to get anybody back because, we finally got people back in the spirit of going to the theater. The films weren't all that good. No, you just kind of had to grin and bear it. You could just go, you like Jason Momoa, you liked him in those Fast and the Furious movies, you liked him with his shirt off. Now he's back playing under the water with questionable CGI. Okay, you'll go see it. Okay, wonderful, fantastic. But now you're just going to have people not compelled to go to the theater for the first 6 months. Like, honestly, for the amount that people are looking forward to Dune Part 2, that also calls to the fact that people would have had to see Dune Part 1, and it's already a niche market in and of itself. But honestly, Deadpool 3 is probably the first thing that's going to, spurn anybody to action. Because in Madam Web dropping on Valentine's Day, that ain't doing anything at all. Because we talked about it with that previous video. It really looks like on the schedule, outside of a couple of long shots, I don't think, I could be wrong, might end up being wrong on that one, but Deadpool 3 is probably not going to make $1 billion. I think $700-800 million might be its top end. Despicable Me 4, Kung Fu Panda 4. Kung Fu Panda, I don't think has sniffed $1 billion. And those Despicable Me films, those are the ones that, really get close. There were a couple, I think maybe one or two did end up cracking $1 billion. And the most recent outing from a couple of years ago, even though it was a spin-off of the franchise, ended up making just about $900 million. So maybe, potentially, given the fact that, people might be wanting to go to the cinema, waiting for their kids, be inspired to do as much again, it has a shot, but I think that $8 million estimate, or $8 billion, estimate for the year, that's going to be something that we're going to look back on at the end of the year, okay? Kind of like the ultimate box office of the Marvels and go, wow, you guys with those $400-500 million estimations, you were being overly generous, because $8 billion when everything all ended up probably closer to 6 if I'm going to go ahead and put my finger on anything. You guys were definitely huffing some copium, but don't worry. Now that everything is going to be fine, potentially, for at least a little while, 2024 might be a write-off. But 2025 is when everything's going to turn around. Just in enough time for everybody to completely and totally detach from the theater system. Best of luck to you. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.